What better way to show someone that you love them than with a heart-shaped pavlova filled with whipped cream, fresh berries, and a drizzle of chocolate? It's a sure way to my heart. Hi, I'm Leanne from yourhomebased.mom.com. Join me in the kitchen today as we make small batch recipes with big taste. I'm going to share with you some of my tips for the perfect pavlova. Now, a pavlova is a meringue-based dessert, a meringue being crispy on the outside and nice and gooey on the inside with the texture of like a marshmallow. It's a combination of just 4 ingredients: sugar, egg whites, vanilla, and some cream of tartar. Now, pavlova was originally, it was a dessert that was developed for the Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova when she did a tour through Australia and New Zealand. And it is one of my favorite desserts. But some people can be a little leery about making meringue or pavlova, so I'm going to share with you my top tips for the perfect meringue. First tip, number 1, your eggs. You want your eggs, your egg whites, we're not using the yolk part, you want your egg whites to be at room temperature. Now, you've forgotten to pull your eggs out, but you need to get going. Well, just take a bowl of warm water, stick your eggs in, let them sit for a few minutes, and that will bring your eggs right up to room temperature. Tip number 2, we're going to have to separate our eggs from our whites. I'm going to show you how I like to do that, because if you get any of the egg yolk in with your white, your eggs are not going to whip up properly. So I want to share with, because it's so important to keep that yolk out of the white, I want to share with you my tip, my favorite way for separating my eggs. I'm going to take my room temperature egg, and I'm going to crack it on a flat surface, not on the edge of a bowl. When you do that, it can force some of the shell up into the egg yolk and break it. So we're going to pop it right there on my plate. I'm going to take an empty, clean water bottle, okay? Going to push it in, lay it next to the yolk, and then release the water bottle. And look at that. It perfectly separates your egg white from your egg yolk. There we go. Pour that one in. I'm going to pop that yolk into there, and then we'll do the next one. There we go. We've got our 2 egg whites perfectly separated from our yolks. All right, tip number 3. This is tip number 3, right? It's your bowl. Make sure your bowl is clean. Wash it out. Make sure there's no any residual fat or oil or anything in there. Your egg whites are not going to whip up as well if there is. I also a lot of times will chill my bowl and my beater before I get started. It seems to help a little bit. And I'm going to tell you this, your weather is can affect your meringue. And if it's a really damp, rainy day, sometimes I have a harder time getting my meringue to whip. So keep that in mind. I'm going to use my whisk attachment and my stand mixer. I find it's easier, faster, and better to use it rather than a hand mixer. So I have got my 2 egg whites. I'm going to pop in here. And then I'm just going to beat these just for like a few seconds to get them nice and foamy. But I need to plug in my mixer. Oh, here we go. We're going to let it get nice and foamy. Okay, just it'll take a minute or so. And then into it, we are going to add some cream of tartar, and just 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Let me show you. You can see how it kind of looks foamy. All right. So then we're going to keep it at high speed, and we're going to take a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And we're just going to pour this in like a tablespoon at a time. We're going to let that mix for about 4 to 5 minutes, depending, again, sometimes the weather can affect it, until we have a nice soft, stiff peak. All right, so you're going to let them whip for about 4 to 5 minutes until they hold a peak. Now, I'll tell you, your weather is going to affect things. So you can see there, I got kind of a nice, soft, semi-stiff peak. Some days my egg whites whip up better than others. A lot of it has to do with the weather outside, but as long as they'll hold a form like this, you're going to be good. Now we're going to add in our vanilla. We're just going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Then we'll just mix it around a couple more times to get the vanilla incorporated, and we're ready to form our pavlova. So our next step is to form our pavlova. Now, here you can make it as easy as you want, or you can get a little fancy. Since it's Valentine's Day, I am going to get a little fancy, and I'm going to make mine into a heart shape. You can also just take a spoon and make them into circles. I'm using a piping bag, and I've just put my meringue in a piping bag with kind of a large round tip. Now, depending on how much of a perfectionist you are, you can actually draw with a pencil a heart shape on the parchment paper and then flip the parchment paper over so that the pencil's underneath. Or if you're like me, you're gonna just freehand it. And so I'm gonna make the outline of a heart, and it might be a lopsided heart. And then I'm gonna fill it in. And we'll make another one over here. As we're making this for 2. Like I said, you can totally make these just circles. One heart's bigger than the other, but oh well, I'm gonna get the bigger one. And then I can kind of go over and just build it up a bit. I'm gonna use up all the meringue I have in there. Kind of wanna make sure that you get them to be even thicknesses though, so that they bake evenly. I'm gonna put a picture here of what they're gonna look like if you just wanna make them round. All right, there we go. Okay, so there are my 2 lopsided hearts. They're ready to go in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 300 degrees. As soon as I put this in the oven, I'm gonna turn the oven down to 250 degrees. It is gonna bake for about 45 minutes until it's dry to the touch. And then I'm gonna turn off my oven and just let them sit in there for about an hour. You can also do this the night before you're gonna serve it and just let them sit in there all night. You just want them to be in a dry environment. Do not put them in the refrigerator because that moisture is gonna make them get soggy. So our pavlova are ready to assemble. Now remember, this is a really great make ahead dessert because you can make the meringue part the day ahead or even 2 days ahead. Keep them in an airtight container just at room temperature and they'll be ready to go. So mine easily removed from the parchment paper. You can see my little heart here. And it's nice and crispy on the outside. Now you may find that maybe when you pick it up, it cracks a little bit or whatever. Totally okay. You're gonna put some whipped cream on it. Just gives it more character. I've got our sweetened whipped cream. We're gonna add a dollop, or a big dollop, a scoop of that on the top. I kind of spread it over the top. And then I'm gonna add my berries. You can use, I'm using raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries today. You can put in some bananas, whatever your favorite fruit combo is. Let's divide our fruit in half here. And then to make it extra special, we are gonna drizzle it with a little melted chocolate. Now, if you find after I melted, as you saw, mine in the microwave. If you don't have a microwave, you can do this on the stovetop or in a double broiler. If your chocolate doesn't give you a nice drizzling consistency, just add a drop or 2 of vegetable or canola oil into it, and it will help it to drizzle and spread a lot better. So we're just gonna take our chocolate and drizzle it over the top. Oh my gosh, doesn't this say I love you more than anything? I have to tell you, this is truly one of my favorite desserts of all time. And if you need to serve more than 2 people, I have a full-size recipe on my blog. You can find a link down below. Look at that, isn't that perfection? It's so good. And I just tell you that, it's so good. Then you're just gonna take your fork. Now, it will start to crack and crumble as you bite into it. Totally what it's supposed to do, but it is definitely a melt in your mouth goodness and a perfect dessert, not only for Valentine's Day, but for any time. So thanks for joining me in the kitchen today. Be sure to check out my other small batch dessert recipes down there, and I'll see you in the next video.